Hey everyone, Dr. Baron Grutter here. I wanted to make a video talking about the business side of clear aligners. And the reason is most of my videos, they cover sort of how to design cases, how to fabricate your aligners and whatnot, but in the 3D printing aspects as well. But what I don't really talk about is the business side, the financial implications. I get a lot of questions about that, and I tend to answer those one at a time, and once in a while I'll make a post. But I thought this video will hopefully help to clarify the ROI, the return on investment of doing aligner cases in office, because that's one of the things we always have to evaluate as practice owners or dental labs. Is it something we want to do? Is it something that's going to be, are we doing it because we want to do it, because it's fun, or are we doing it because it makes business sense to do it? So this presentation, this video, is going to sort of talk about, some of the options, some of the aspects of how it will affect your overhead and your profitability. So first of all, I want to kind of talk about this this spreadsheet that I have here. And this is a spreadsheet that was originally created by Philip Lineberger. He is with Carestream Dental. And so he put together a spreadsheet. He asked me to take a look at it, and we've worked together in the past, and we kind of collaborated to try to break it down to be it can be individualized, or it can be customized, I should say, to any office out there currently doing aligners or looking to add aligners to their office. So I want to say, a big thanks to him for starting this off, because this really it should help, I believe.
Yeah, so in our office, we use Carestream's CS3600 intraoral scanner. We use it for our digital ortho or guided surgery, our night guards. We even use it for some removable. If we're doing partial, if we're going to do a partial, we'll do a scan with that. And sometimes we'll even use it for removable, like full arch dentures as a preliminary scan. So yeah, anyway, it's a scanner that we use on a daily basis, and it's just got a very smooth flow. It scans quickly. It's easy. It integrates directly with our practice management software, which just makes it super convenient. So,
okay, so we're going to start. I'm going to kind of go over the color coding, as you'll see here: the blue, the green, and the orange, and even the purple. So the blues are sort of the base, what we already know what's going on, and I'm going to use Invisalign as a default, because it's the most common outsourced option for clear aligners. So a couple of things. Anything that's yellow is going to be things you would add, you're going to fill out yourself. And then the green is going to be dual source. So dual source is if you're going to be outsourcing the design aspects of the case, but you're just going to be making the retainers, which is typically going to be printing models and then creating the tray over top of that model. And then lastly is this orange, which is full in-house, which means you're going to be designing the case and printing and fabricating the trays. So we'll break it down one at a time. So first of all, technically you can modify, and we're going to make this spreadsheet available so that you can, again, use it in your own office. These fees right here are the base fees for Invisalign. The majority of Invisalign providers are going to be, encountering these fees. Now, this video, if you watch it 6 months, a year from now, these prices may have gone up. Or if you're a high volume Invisalign user, well, then your fees might even be less. But these are sort of the base numbers we're going to work with, and we're talking about cases that are really pretty simple cases, less than 5 or less trays, up or lower, with a lab bill of $929. Then we've got between that 5 and 14 aligners per arch, you've got a lab bill of $1239, and then these more comprehensive 14 plus aligner cases at $1829. So, for a very basic, an office that's doing a decent amount of aligners, but not really a ton, we're talking about 5, 10, and 5. So 20 cases a year, less than 2 cases a month is fairly straightforward. It's low volume. If you think about it in comparison to an implant provider, some people get started off doing Invisalign, doing implants, and they're only doing 1 to 2 a month, which is what we're here now. And then you've got some offices doing 10 implants a month. You've certainly got offices doing 10 Invisalign cases a month. But I want to start scaled down to the very, beginning of doing aligners in office. And these fees As you'll see, if we scale these fees up higher, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to, and I don't want to start off with, a $10,000 comprehensive ortho case, because very few people are actually charging that. What you charge is up to you, but this is fairly straightforward at $2,000 for these 5 trays or less. There's not a whole lot of profitability here, but maybe help you set up, some pre-restorative orthodontics, or some very minor ortho relapse. And then you got the middle cases, which are, sort of the cream of the crop cases that we're really aiming for, that are just about any office can take on and get some pretty, significant results without, taking on the really challenging cases. And these, I would say, are the cases that the direct-to-consumer marketing approaches are really kind of going after. So a case fee of $3,000 when they're charging closer to $2,000. If you charge $4,000, you can get, you get people to accept treatment. That's great. But if you're trying to stay a little more competitive, doing a little bit better, a little more customized treatment, be able to actually add attachments to teeth and whatnot that they can't do, but you're charging $1,000 premium for that ability plus the doctor oversight, dental office oversight. And then these more complex cases, we're starting at $5,000. Again, if you want to bump all these fees up, down, whatever, I think this is hopefully a reasonable guess for now. Okay, so now we're talking about if we're doing these 5, 10, and 5 cases, the total revenue to the practice is going to be $65,000. Now, your overhead is going to be $26,000 of that $65,000. So your net revenue that first year is going to be $38,000. Now that net revenue, the reason I call that net revenue rather than profit is that's paying for chair time. It's not all profit. You still have to pay an assistant. You have your front office. Your office is open. It's not pure profit. Now, there's different ways to look at that, but I'm just going to call it revenue. And whatever portion of that is truly profit is going to be dependent on each individual practice. Okay, and you can see that stretched out over 3 years, 116, over 5 years, just about $200,000 of revenue. Okay, so now let's get into the DIY, the in-office aspect. And we're going to start with the dual source, okay, just making the trays. Now, there is a pay-to-play, a cost of entry, and that's going to be an upfront cost. You're going to have to get a 3D printer. You can outsource the 3D printing of trays, of models as well. That's, really overcomplicates the spreadsheet, but the math is pretty simple to do that as well if you decide to go that route. But for now, if you're going to use your Carestream, it's 3600, CS3600, or whatever intraoral scanner you have, you're going to scan the patient's mouth, and you're going to send off that case for someone to design, such as Lab Pronto, or one of these other options. Now, you're going to get the files back, and you're going to need to print the models. And get a printer, get some of the ancillary things. I would say budget for about $5,000. The printers are less than that, but again, I think it's a reasonable budgeting amount. Now you're going to have a pressure forming machine. I don't recommend a suck down. Suck downs won't traditionally get the detail that we're looking for in an aligner. There are some exceptions to that rule, like the Ergoform, but the price-wise for that is close to the Mini Star, which is $2,500, and I do believe positive pressure will be your best option to get really good predictability in your cases. So anyway, point being, you're looking at about a $7,500 initial investment. Okay, that's a one-time. Don't worry about paying that each year. The spreadsheet will factor that into the year one, but will not be factored in. Well, it'll only be factored in one time in 3 years and one time in 5 years. Okay, so now we need to get into the variables that are specific to your office, and one of those variables would be the assistant's wages per hour. Now, this is highly variable based on the area of the country, the experience of the assistant, and so on. I'm going to go with a fairly hefty approximation. I'm going to go with $25. To me, in the heart of America, it's a pretty high pay rate for an assistant. However, you go to California and that's pretty typical. Cost of living is different. So, but I think $25 is reasonable for this presentation. Hopefully you will agree. So now we've got how long does it take to fabricate an aligner? So in my office, it's about 2.5 minutes. So I could put 3 minutes here. But I've seen videos where some offices are actually having their assistants cut them out with scissors, and they have this really refined technique where it's taking them closer to 1.5 minutes, we'll say 2 minutes. I'm going to say that if it's taking you more than 5 minutes per tray, Now remember, you're making multiple trays, sort of an assembly line type of production. If you're doing one after another, it should take about 3 minutes or less, but 5 minutes, we'll say it's acceptable. If it's more than 5 minutes, we need to look at technique and what's going on, where time is being wasted. So that says that if we got 5 minutes to do it at $25 an hour, your cost per tray in labor is $2.08. We've got our cost per printed model, which is approximately $1.75. I say that because it's usually $1.50 to $2 per model. And then cost per aligner sheet is just over $1. We'll round up to $1.25. That's for the Essex Ace. I should go ahead and write that, Essex Ace. I use the 040. But anyway, so that would be $1, just shy of $1.25 there. And then you've got your cost per aligner, total cost would be $5.08. Now, to have someone, at Lab Pronto, to have them design your case, you're looking at $195. So now this is going to determine our actual overhead per case. You can see this is the number when you add in the software segmentation and 10 trays total at that 508 a piece. It's going to cost $245.83. And then for 14, of course, if it's 10, it's going to be less than this, but I'm capping it out. And this is 25 upper and 25 lower at $449, $450. So let's talk about cases, and we're going to use the same number because I'm going to keep the same price, and I want to do as apples to apples comparison as possible. So I'm just going to copy, paste that there. So now we can look at, here's our total revenue, that same $65,000, and our overhead has dropped significantly. And here's our additional profit from fabrication. Now, be aware, this number is pure profit. Our overhead has accounted for the initial investment in the machines and the labor and cost of the trays and everything. So our overhead is completely covered in here. This additional profit of $11,800 year one is pure profit. And again, I don't mean to repeat myself too much, but that's accounting for the $7,500 initial investment. So if you already own this stuff, your profitability that first year is closer to 18 plus thousand, almost, a little over $18,000 profit that first year. And that's with changing nothing about your prices, about your number of cases, and a very conservative 20 cases a year. Okay, so $18,000 in the pocket of the owner of the practice or the laboratory. Okay, so and then over the years, $50,000 over 3 years, and then about $90,000 over 5 years. So now let's try one more thing. Let's look at if we want to do the entire thing in office. Not every office is going to want to do this. Not every office is going to want to learn how to use the software and to dedicate that time to designing it. But if you do, particularly for these first two categories of cases, which are pretty simple, let's talk about that. How long does it take to design an aligner case? Now, these super simple cases shouldn't take any more than 20 minutes. These middle cases, about 30 minutes. And these more complex cases can take anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, okay? So I'm just going to put 30 minutes on an average, but I want to show you what happens is at $25 an hour, that's $12.50. Even if I bumped it up to $60 per 60 minutes per case, it's still only $25. It's an extra $12.50 per case. Your overhead goes from $45. It's a difference of $12.50. So I don't think it's a big difference, and I think that 30 minutes really should be where you're at when you kind of nail down the process. So we've got $12.50 in labor to design, and you've got an in-house software setup fee. So basically, to export the design, it's about $20. It can be less if you're doing more. More cases, your per export costs less. It can be down to $11. But trying to be conservative, start high. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is, is my assistant going to be able to do all this? Well, yes, they should be. Most offices should be delegating this process to an assistant, in my opinion, and then having the doctor check the design. The same way you would do it with Invisalign. You send off a case to Invisalign, they have one of their techs set up the case, they send it to you for approval, you review it, you tell them what changes you want, you send it back to them to have those changes made. The same thing here. You're going to have your assistant set up the case, You're going to have them present it to you. You'll review it. You might make the tweaks yourself because you have that ability, same as with the Invisalign Pro app. Or you just have them make the changes and then move forward. So you're going to review it, but I do believe we should be delegating most of the majority of the software to your assistant. And then that way you're spending about 5 minutes reviewing the case just like you would with Invisalign. Okay, so now we're looking at the overhead's going to include the design fees. Instead of spending $195, now we're talking about $32.50. So pretty significant savings there. And here is our profitability. So the initial profitability that first year, there is no buy-in amount. It's just pure profit. It's $32.50 for that first year. May not seem like a ton of money, but again, we're in a very conservative 20 cases, just like we were in the other categories, and it's again pure profit because the overhead factored in the labor of your assistant and everything else. So an extra $32.50 in the pocket of the practice owner. Now, as you can imagine, when we start getting into more high volume practices, doing, let's just say 10 cases here, or actually, I'm going to say, we'll say 15 cases, 30 cases, and then 20 cases. Okay. So now you can see this is, I meant to say 20 there. So for scalability, when you're now doing 75 cases a year, now let's take a look. Copy, paste. Your revenue that first year, or your profit purely from the fabrication, is now $57 and change thousand dollars. And if you decide to do the design as well in office, you've got an extra $10,500 from that. So again, as we scale, of course, things are going to get even better. One other thing avenue to think about. So I talked about scaling the practice in general, but now that you're doing this more, you're becoming more aware of how cases work. We're going to start presenting more cases. We're going to start identifying things because we know how things work and presenting with more confidence. So we're going to have higher case acceptance. But we also might consider reducing our fees at the same time to help people, because we know that our overhead is so low that we can now reduce our overhead, our cost to the patient, to get more people to say yes. So for instance, I'm just going to say $17.50. I'm going to say 20, so $250 off that first case, $500 off of this case, and then we'll say $750 off of this case, case type, I should say. So, but to do that, if I'm doing that, I'm doing it so that I can help more people say yes. More people are going to afford it. So hopefully this number is now going to jump up to a pretty comfortable 20 cases. This case should open up to around 40, we would hope, and now these will say 30 cases. Okay, so we're trying to bring down prices so more people can say yes. So if you're not going to bring down prices just to say the same. It's an investment in your office, but hopefully if you're having less overhead, you can reduce your prices and more people can afford to accept treatment. So now you've jumped up to $90,000 in additional profit. You've got almost $14,500 in profit just from the design as well. So anyway, hopefully this sort of gives you the I'm going to go ahead and leave this up with the apples to apples, just the final screen, so it's easier. If you're still looking at the screen, look at the numbers, you can see the true apples to apples comparison, same prices, same number of cases, what we're looking at in profit just from the fabrication, and then more profit if we decide to design office. So anyway, I hope this video helps to explain where the profitability comes in with aligners. It's not for everyone. I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to do it. For instance, the in-house, if you're doing the full in-house, you're going to have to learn how to set up the cases. Some people can DIY learn that. I have lots of videos for free online showing people how to do that. I even have videos showing how the fabrication. So there's plenty of free resources out there. If you check out my website, I'm going to try and get there right quick. And so right here. So if you go to my website, we've got online learning. We've got Blue Sky Plan, there's Ortho right here. And so you can see playlists and videos and how to do the whatnot. Okay, lots of free resources there. And then also the 3D printing, I have videos on how to make the retainers as well. And then last but not least, if you want to learn hands-on, you want to bring, you want to learn, you want to bring your assistant to a course, we have live courses as well. So not trying to push this, I just want to make sure you guys know there are resources available to learn the fabrication and the design. And the courses are set up now so that day one focuses on case selection, understanding how aligners work, and the fabrication of trays, packaging of trays, and this sort of business side of things. And then day two is all on design. So if you're going to be doing just the dual source and you have no interest in designing an office, well, then day one is going to be sufficient. If you already know how to do this, you've been doing this for years, but you now want to learn Blue Sky Plan software, well, then you really only need day two. Okay, it's going to teach you how to design. If you're starting off and you want to have, bring your assistant and you want to learn both aspects, more comprehensively, then the 2-day course is going to give you, you just register for both days. And of course, as with all courses, if you go to 2 days, it's less than the cost of each individual day. So anyway, I'm not trying to market my courses. I'm just letting you know there are other people out there teaching courses as well. Lots of great options, lots of free options, and lots of hands-on training options. So anyway, I do hope this video was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to get this posted up on YouTube and Facebook and try to make this spreadsheet available as soon as possible. All right, thank you so much for listening. And being it is the middle of the holidays, hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and wish you a Happy New Year. All right. Thanks so much. Bye for now.